Hey there, I'm Diane Allen, and I'd like to talk about releasing tension in the realm of violin and bow playing. We're going to start off with some basics. Plant your feet shoulder width apart. My feet naturally kind of go duck feet style. Some people, their feet are straight. Either way, whatever's most comfortable for you. We just don't want the feet to be too wide or too narrow. Shoulder width apart. Knees. Knees are huge. If your knees are locked, everything else is locked. Bouncy knees, soft knees. Now, as long as I'm talking about knees, I have three suggestions about knees. If you just cannot get out of that habit of locking your knees back or tensing there, it's great to practice on a higher chair where your legs dangle. Another place to practice is on one of those bouncy balls, those exercise balls, a big exercise ball. You'd still plant your feet at shoulder width apart, sit down, and sit. Those balls are excellent for posture. And the third is a balance board. I have a video about balance boards. I think I'll include the link down below for that. And it's basically another natural aligner of your skeletal system. So you stand really nice and easily without stressing out. You can have a nice, tall, easy posture without forcing yourself. So that's what the balance board does. So that's what I'm going to say about the knees, is do not lock your knees. Your torso, not twisted. It's going to move, of course, because everything's movable. We are training for a sport here after all. And so you don't want to lock one body part, and I'll get more into that later, but everything needs to always feel like it's ready for action, ready for movement. Even though we're not running here to play the violin, we're standing still. Your body is still ready for movement. The violin needs to be fitted so that you're comfortable. I love to just, if you had no shoulder rest, for example, hold the violin and then you look underneath and above and you see what spots need to be filled up. That's a great way to fit yourself for a shoulder rest and a chin rest. As you can see, I have my own setup here. This is a Mach 1 violin shoulder rest, and I love a strad pad on top. So the weight of your head, without squeezing, needs to hold the violin down in this fashion. One of the things I love to do is to put the violin on the edge of a table, put the shoulder rest down on the table, and then you put your hand on top with nothing supporting the instrument over here. So it's just like a sandwich like this between the table and your hand. And that's a great way to find out really quickly how little you need to do to balance the violin, just to balance the violin. So get this fitted nicely, and then simply swivel your head using your skeletal system, and then just enough tension or weight to hold the violin. Then when you put your hand up, you always can push up a little bit and help balance it. Let's talk about some concepts. And I'll get to the bow arm as well. I've already mentioned the skeletal system. If you really focus in on the bones, what do the bones look like? How are they being used? What angles are they? If you really just focus in on the skeletal system, you don't have to think at all about your muscles. They will be engaged with the right amount of engagement they need to be engaged. If you think about your bones, so for example, if I'm going to hold my bow arm up, I'm just going to think about bringing this bone here up. I'm not using my muscles to hold my arm up. I'm just relaxed. Everything's hanging loose. I'm using my skeletal system. And whatever muscles need to be engaged naturally do it themselves. I'm not focusing on them at all. Skeletal structure. If you really just focus on that, a lot of this tension really just dissipates and goes away. Everything is attached. I love this talk because we get so ingrained in focusing on one body part. For example, let's say we're going to work on this bow stroke where the forearm is moving and not the upper arm. Now, people who are very focused on their studies are going to try hard. And often that trying hard means clenching the upper arm so that it won't move, holding that still, and then trying to move this. That's like trying to drive with the parking brake on. Something's going to wear out and you're going to have some pain. Bow Arm Boot Camp exercises that I have an online video course for goes in depth on how to practice this so that you're not stressing these muscles at all, to practice dividing your upper arm from your forearm. So once again, we're thinking skeleton and we're not bracing. Now it's really common if you have tension, let's say you have a pain. Let's say if you have pain somewhere. I always trace it up one body part. So for example, if you have a pain in your forearm, I'll say, okay, what's going on over here? If you have a pain here, all right, what's going on in your back? I always trace it back. So let me backtrack for a minute. I said everything is attached. No bracing. So what this means is, back to what I said initially, your whole body needs to be ready for action. So it's soft. All your joints are movable. There's no clenching. And you're moving without holding this still. You might be moving here. Let's say you're shifting. You don't have to hold something else still. Maybe you're holding your belly still, really tight, and you're trying to move here. No, everything needs to be loose. There's no bracing. And there's a chain reaction. If I'm shifting, something else is going to be moving too. Let it move. If I'm bowing this forearm, and there's a little bit of movement here, of course it's going to move. It's attached. And if I'm moving this part of my arm, something in my back is going to be moving. Of course, it's attached. And so people really try to isolate different body parts, but it's all one. And this might be moving a lot, this might be moving a very little bit, this might be moving a teeny bit. And that's fine. Let it all move. Be an organic being. Don't isolate everything. Okay, done talking about that one. As I mentioned before, the Bow Arm Boot Camp video course is all about helping you experience what you need to when in the bow arm. And strengthening what needs to be strengthened. But everything else that's not needed is loose, dangling, hanging, flying, whatever. As far as the violin is concerned, I do want to go a little more in depth with the violin. There are a couple of ideas. The first one, when you press a string down, I love this one. When you press a string down with the finger, really, how far do you have to press it? All you have to do is get the bottom of the string to touch the top of the fingerboard. Once the bottom edge of the string is touching the top of the fingerboard, you don't need to squeeze any harder. Don't keep pushing it in. The thumb. Okay, we're humans. We're supposed to have opposable thumbs that grip. That's their design. But it's a killer for violin players. How to relax that thumb? Well, that gets into a whole other can of worms. For example, I don't teach with the thumb on the other side. I actually teach with the thumb underneath. Now, like I said, that's going to open up a can of worms. Try it, experiment with it. If you like it, great. If you don't do it. But if you're going to have your thumb on the other side of the fingerboard, you need to learn how to resist our human nature impulse to squeeze that thumb. Here are some great tips for doing that. Put a sock over the scroll of your violin and put the violin scroll onto a shelf. Another great place is right here in the corner of the door, in the door molding. And I had a friend who used to sit on the floor and put her violin on a chair. And then practice without your thumb. Just let your thumb dangle and practice without it. And you'll notice it's going to twitch and it's going to want to be involved, but you're going to have to really work on that and focus on it to prevent it from happening. So those are my comments about the violin, and mostly it's about just using just enough head weight. Don't kill the violin. Don't make violin juice is what I say. All you have to do is touch the string to the fingerboard, no further, and then work on your thumb. Make sure your knees are bouncy, everything is soft, and you're thinking skeleton. And for in-depth on the bow arm, just check out the online video course, Bow Arm Bootcamp. Now, let's say you are in trouble, which I have been in plenty trouble myself. You've got to do something. And I'll share with you what I've done. Lay on the floor. You're practicing. Stop. You feel tension. Put everything down and just lay on the floor and let gravity take you over. You have to choose to focus on releasing tension. It's not going to go away by itself. You must actually mentally make a decision to choose to focus. And that is another thing I have spent a lot of time doing. Focusing on how can I play comfortably. All right, what else have I done? I've laid on the floor. I love jacuzzi tubs. They work great for me. Massage when I'm in a more needy state. And if I have a sore muscle that does not go away, then that's my signal to go to the chiropractor. And usually once I'm aligned, the sore muscle goes away. I've also studied a very small amount of Alexander technique. In this day and age, the help is amazing. The choices that we have, there are many things I haven't done that I have a number of friends who have done. For example, I have a cello friend who swears by the Feldenkrais method. Absolutely saved her. Cranial sacral is another one. That's all about your head and the bones in your head. I can go on and on. Find your own. Find your own thing that works for you. How you can counteract violin playing. I do know that when I have students do a whole bunch of scales, your hand is this way, simply reverse it by going like this. That's just, real simple idea. I hope that I helped demystify how to release tension in violin and bow playing, give you some ideas to think about. It's a journey, for sure. And your violin playing is going to benefit, and you'll be so much more happy and comfortable. It's just a great place for you to invest your energy and your focus, because it's going to make your body happier, you're going to feel more comfortable, you're going to be more expressive, you're going to get a better sound. The instrument magnifies anything you do anyway, so the more relaxed you are, the more relaxed your sound is going to be. happy practicing, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.